Minister, yesterday on Budget Day, a number of fishing organisations went to Brussels to seek help from MEPs to address the challenges facing their industry, with Ed O'Donnell of the Irish Fish Producers Association saying unless immediate action is taken, there are fears of widespread business closures and that many Irish fishermen will permanently leave the industry. I'm just wondering, are you satisfied that an increase of €7 million to 177 million for the Irish fisheries budget is adequate, and do you think fishermen are generally satisfied in the feedback you've been receiving since the budget has been announced?
I think it's a very significant investment, and over the last 2-3 years we've invested massively in our fishing sector in terms of the capacity of our processing sector, as well as indeed supporting fishermen themselves, and also particularly as well in terms of our piers and harbours and our infrastructure. And that's something we want to build upon now, and we're going to be launching a number of new schemes over the coming months as well to support the sector. For example, one scheme which we're commencing and which this budget is accommodating funding for is a payment of up to €5,000 for small fishing vessels because they've been under particular financial pressure. Another scheme which we're launching is the Young Fisher Scheme, which will be helping young fishermen and women to purchase their first vessel, up to for those under the age of 40 to do that, and they'll get 40% grant aid for purchasing their first boat, up to a maximum of €250,000 of a grant. So we have very significant supports there. But of course the other key, and I suppose part of the key challenge at the moment is in relation to supply of raw material, supply of fish. And there's sort of two impacts in that. One, Brexit, which impacted in relation to our national quota by an average of 15%. And secondly as well, conservation measures as well, generally in relation to overall stocks, whereby stocks are being fished at a level which is sustainable so that you're not undermining the stock going forward. That's something which I'm working on at European level all of the time to try and see if we can increase and improve our quotas. We've had some successes in that. We've got a permanent increase in mackerel last year, for example, of 3,000 tonne of mackerel after a 2-year battle at European Council level for a quota that previously would have been fished by the Danish. I've also, each of the last 4 years in the fisheries negotiations with Norway, managed to improve our level of quota that we're getting there, as well as reduce access to Irish waters, and that's negotiations will be coming up again. Listen, I think we're investing significantly, and we're working in every way possible as well to try and maximise the quota that's available to the sector too.
When it comes to the end of the Dáil term, though, because obviously we've got an election coming up in a matter of months, whichever way you slice it, do you not think that the fact that these issues are still being enumerated by fishermen, it's unlikely that they're going to be addressed in the coming months, even with the measures that you've outlined here?
Yeah, well, I think when you go back to the wider quota issue, like quotas were set back in the early 1980s, and each country got a percentage of different fish stocks at that time, of each fish stock, based on what each country's track record of fishing them was up to that point in time. And really since that, those percentages haven't changed since the early 80s. Capacity to fish has increased greatly because their boats are bigger now, but the actual percentage of stocks hasn't changed since then, because in order to change it, you need a 2/3 majority at EU Council level. And also if you're increasing one country's percentage, then somebody else's percentage is reducing. So obviously it's always very hard to get that 2/3 majority. We have had successes, and as I say, I outlined them there in terms of how we've made improvements, but there's no doubt that on a macro scale, the impact of Brexit has that 15% reduction has hit. We saw it from a government point of view to significantly support the sector through that, and it's something we'll continue to do.
Very, very last one, literally 5 seconds.